Greetings, friends, and welcome back to the Musings from the Mount podcast. I'm your host, Joseph Carenza. So we're back for round 3 of our journey through the food for thought section of the book, Ponder on This. And we start by exploring this fascinating idea about how spiritual teachings are placed at the crossroads for those who are ready to receive them. And we continue with one of the most counterintuitive principles in all of spirituality, that by holding on, we actually lose what we're trying to keep. And in this episode, as we work our way through the various passages, we discuss the concept of a new species of humans that's incarnating in this moment with upgraded circuitry, kind of like the difference between the original iPhone and the latest model. And we wrestle with some pretty heavy questions about when to get help and when to step back, especially when watching people we love go through necessary but painful growth. This is the kind of conversation that might just shift how you see everything from your daily attachments to your role in this massive evolutionary moment we are all living through. And we hope you enjoyed the episode. And if you do enjoy this podcast, please consider going to meditationmount.org and donating. Your donation helps us to bring you this podcast as well as all the other programs the Mount produces, both today and in the future. We're incredibly grateful and honored by your support. Okay, back to the podcast in part 3 of Food for Thought. As we drop into our 3rd episode on Food for Thought, one of the things we were just talking about before the episode started was how this section is you can almost spend months or years just studying this one section, because it is an interesting encapsulation of how the micro and the macro work together. You can look at yourself, you can look at a system, you can look at the universe, and these kind of axioms work in an interesting way to describe all of them in a very similar way. And you were also noticing that there was some Agni Yoga kind of slokas, some of the longer ones, that also kind of reflected in the same kind of vein.
Right.
Yeah.
Because these are the ageless wisdom teachings,
Mhm.
and they've been conveyed throughout the ages in different ways, depending on what is needed. And traditionally, they were passed down from teacher to student, oral tradition. And if they were written, they were given privately to students. They weren't publicly disseminated. We didn't have the printing press thousands of years ago.
Right, yeah, let alone the internet.
Let alone the internet. So it's always been safeguarded, the teachings, because you don't cast pearls before swine, as it says in the Bible, or as a friend of mine says, don't cast pearls before time. So when someone and something is ready to receive, it is open to receiving, and it will naturally attract it. It will receive. When the student is ready, the teacher will appear. We know that phrase. And so there was a sloka I was reading in Agni Yoga a few days ago, and it talked about the teachings. And I thought, okay, well, why don't we frame the teaching? Because the Master DK, the Tibetan, who has written all the material we're using here, said that a lot of my work is in support of Master M, Master KH. Those are his sort of mentors that he works with. And Master M is the one who brought through the Agni Yoga teaching. So I thought it was only fit that we should probably start with an Agni Yoga quote. And there's a sloka here in Supermundane 1 that talks about finding the balance between withholding and disclosing. It's what I've just said. What's the right amount to release into the world at the right time? The right dosage. Because you could overdo it, you can overdose. Or not got enough of what you need. And it says a panacea must be dispensed in proper measure, neither more nor less. And then it says, one can recall occasions when after a long conversation, a question was asked that proved the listener's lack of understanding. the answer to which could have produced harmful results. He's basically saying, when you notice that the person who's ready to receive is in fact not ready to receive everything that you had intended to give, you actually withhold that. You safeguard, not just safeguard the teachings, but you safeguard them from receiving something which, if they misused, would incur more karma on their part.
Mm.
So it isn't you're withholding it because it's secret. It's wisdom. It's wisdom, Joey, and that's how I see it.
Yeah, I mean, in simple mathematical terms, like you don't try to teach a kid how to do square roots before they can do subtraction and addition.
Absolutely.
I mean, it's just that it's really kind of that simple.
Yeah. So this is the paragraph that caught my eye. We advise that the books of the teaching simply be placed at the crossroads so that they may find their own destiny. Thus, we indicate special means of dissemination. So at the crossroads, what does that mean? Is it literally the crossroads? Or is it the crossroads in somebody's life when they've reached a point and they're asking for help? And help comes in many forms, one of which could be a book showing up, a meeting with another person. So the teaching is placed at the crossroads so that they may find their own destiny. And then there's an interesting paragraph. We'll just close with this one. There may have been pilgrims to whom the books were not given, even though their hearts were burning for the truth, because their outward appearances impeded the right judgment. For example, one may have been too smartly attired, another too poorly clad. Superficial considerations can impede useful meetings. And then it says, among traveling sadhus, there may be objectionable people. So he's basically saying, don't be fooled by appearances. Don't judge a book by its cover. And therefore, sense inwardly, not just in giving out the teachings, but in every interaction, what is right speech? What is right discernment? There's a line in the affirmation that the Master DK gives us to use each day, and it says, may I play my part in the one work through self-forgetfulness, harmlessness, and right speech. It's knowing what to say and when to say. And I guess in one sense, you have an approach like Johnny Appleseed, where you just throw the seeds around, and as it says in the Bible, some seeds fell on fertile ground and others fell on stony ground. So wherever they fall, they'll either germinate or they won't. And I know that the founder of Meditation Mount, Florence Garrigue, she was prone to sort of leave some of our booklets in public places, in the supermarket, in a public restroom, or in a library, or somewhere where she trusted that a person would bump into the book at the right time in their life. So, and other times, maybe they didn't. It was this Johnny Appleseed approach.
I mean, think about how fascinating that is, the sort of trying to, introduce the concept of creative meditation in that time, like in the 70s, and just here and there dropping it in. Where, like right now, the difference being that if you go online and you search for meditation or creative meditation, you're going to get hundreds, maybe millions of hits. It's such a different time. So I kind of feel like in some ways is what we're doing here at the Mount and this podcast as well. We're sort of putting it out there, and when you're ready, you find it.
Right. Not that this is the only truth or this is the truth, but
it's just a way in.
The world is hungry. There's a deep spiritual hunger. We believe that we have access to spiritual nourishment, a source of spiritual food. And in fact, this section of Ponder on This is called Food for Thought. And we likened it last time to a smorgasbord or buffet where you're sampling these different food items.
Yeah.
And some of them are sort of, they're all tasty. But some of them sort of expand you and others bring you back into focus. And and I like the idea of being able to utilize all these different offerings that are given to us by the enlightened beings, whose job it is to make sure that the wisdom of the ages continues to be handed down, civilization to civilization, generation to generation. It's the passing of the Olympic torch, the true Olympic torch, the wisdom that is found on Mount Olympus.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess in some sort of, humble way, or, we're part of that chain.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that's one of the reasons why I don't have any reservations at all about taking our time and doing things like going through, spending multiple episodes going through just the intro section to this book, because, I mean, there's infinite amount of information out there, but there's very little that covers this in this kind of depth. And so, like that's, in the case you're dropping into this and you haven't listened to the other episodes, that's okay. Just drop into this.
Well, it was interesting because in the sloka that I've just read from, there was another couple of sentences, and I wasn't going to read them, but now you've just prompted me. In olden times, people would say, make haste slowly. A careful balance must accompany the sending of the books of the teaching. In centuries to come, you will see how the teaching given by us should be spread. The great mass of people is beginning to see clearly.
Yeah.
Signs of hope.
That's right. Yeah.
So, are you ready to go back to the buffet table?
Yes, I'm ready. It's an all you can eat afternoon here.
Well, actually, it's all you can digest.
That's true. That's true. Yeah. Yeah, we don't want to overeat, which is why we're taking our time with this.
Yes. The one that we're going to be quoting from comes from Glamour, A World Problem. And it's a perennial. Goes back to the Buddhist teachings.
Yeah, that's what I loved about this one too.
Yeah. The cause of all sorrow and woes is desire. Desire for that which is material. Then there's a quote, no man liveth unto himself, and no nation either. And the goal of all human effort is loving understanding, prompted by a love for the whole. So this is the get out of jail card. The chain to the wheel of rebirth is desire. Breaking that chain is loving understanding, prompted by a love for the whole.
Well, I know that this is a trans-Himalayan mystery tradition, but I love that how clearly it takes the Buddhist teaching. It's not coming from a place of where it doesn't understand and know these teachings. Like it's a continuation of them, and that it just not just desire, but desire for the material. And you think about that for a minute, and we tend to think of material sometimes as like maybe gold or money or wealth, but also just flesh, person. That we think about. Oh wow, that is the true form of like this desire is the true form of suffering.
And when my thinking gets crystallized, that's a material form.
Yeah.
A fixed beliefs.
Yeah.
Changed me to the wheel of rebirth. So this is a good reminder of the Buddha and the Buddhist teaching. And now we carry on, still from the same book. When the pupil recognizes practically all the time that he is not his vehicles, but is indeed the divine dweller within them, then certain things will be imparted to him. Well, you're not given the password until you've actually become impersonal.
Yeah, it's also has an interesting kind of video game parallel too.
Okay.
Like you have to finish a level before you can go to the next level. Like it's really kind of simple, but yeah, it's until you realize this, you literally cannot go to the next level.
Yes, because you don't have access to it.
Right, and it's the shilabit. The syllabus is this key, is this concept.
Right.
So
how many times have you had access denied on something?
Yeah,
and it's like we get that in ourselves sometimes. I want to know the answer. Access denied. Well, because I got to clear a way for the truth to come through.
Right. It's got to be able to land. It's like you're an air traffic controller. You got to give the plane a place to land.
Yeah. And what we just read in the quote before was that what allows this landing and this space is loving understanding prompted by a love for the whole. So this sort of carries on with that. But the thing here is that when we realize that we're not our vehicles, but indeed the divine dweller, this goes back to the principle here at Meditation Mount of essential divinity. And I want to mention that because it is a key building block of our work. Essential divinity recognizes and affirms that in each aspect of creation, the Creator lives. Not as the form, but in and through the form. If your identification is with the form, then you are imprisoned. But if you understand that I am the essentially divine dweller within the form, then there is freedom to live inside of matter. But if I'm identified with matter, identified with what I own, what I believe, then that divine dweller is not liberated on earth.
Mm.
And the essential divinity principle here means that when our visitors come, we have hundreds of visitors a week coming here, every person that comes through the gate is an aspect of the divine at different stages of growth and revelation. And therefore, you treat them with loving understanding. You welcome them because it's life seeking to find itself. And people come here because it somehow calls forth a sense of peace and a beauty. Just the physical location that we occupy in the east end of the Ojai Valley. We're actually perched above the east end of the Ojai Valley. But also energetically, there is a sense of calm and a sense of inner beauty so that people can be reminded of the beauty of life without us having to give them a pamphlet that tells them about the beauty of life.
Mm.
So they open the door themselves.
I don't know, just a more technical point, and I always found this kind of interesting, by what it implies, because the people recognize this practically, that that they are not their vehicles. It's plural, so it's like it's sort of a subtle hint to say not only are you not this incarnation, not are you this flesh, you weren't the last one, and you're not the next one either.
Well, and by the vehicles, they're also saying that means you're physical, you're emotional, you're mental.
Yeah.
Don't just think it's your physical.
Right.
No, the whole thing.
Right. So
all the vehicles and everything that's ever been before to carry you through. And yet, when you occupy these vehicles, you bless them. The divinity that is you blesses the divinity that is inherent in the matter that you're utilizing for the forms. So it isn't you discard the vehicles and throw them away.
Yeah.
Earth is not some big tip for matter.
Okay. Yeah.
Earth is a spiritual recycling and upcycling where matter is upgraded and the light within matter is released. So when we use our vehicles consciously, we raise the vibration of the vehicles themselves. And then that matter, when it's recycled, is of a higher frequency that can be used next time around from the big resource pool of a higher quality. So we don't just use and discard. We use and refine.
Yeah, that's a very different approach.
It is.
And it's one that it resonates with me. That's why I always find these passages interesting. But it's also one that is not inherently obvious and certainly doesn't come from the maybe sort of entry-level teachings of pretty much any tradition other than this one, really.
Yeah. So now we're going to switch books.
Okay.
This next one is taken from Esoteric Psychology, Volume 1. And this one is a what? One of these what? So here's what it says, one sentence. 2/3 of humanity will stand upon the path at the close of this age. And with that, 1/3 will be held over for later unfoldment. This is a bold statement.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of falls into this sort of apocalyptic literature of different different traditions about how at some point in time there comes a sectioning off of those who got it and those who didn't.
Right. And when you read this, it sounds like, well, that's not fair.
Well,
God can't. How can God sort of hold back 1/3 and let 2/3 go on?
I'd have to say though that in terms of apocalyptic literature, 2/3 is quite a big number. I mean,
Oh, yeah.
there's like 4,400 or 50. There's other traditions that
Well, 144,000.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
there's so 2/3. It seems that's the most positive number I've seen.
But what it really says,
Yeah.
it goes back to the vehicles. We talk about our own vehicles. What if you think about the spirit and the life, the sentient life that is the planet, that uses the different physical, emotional, mental levels of the planetary experience as its vehicles? There's a point where everybody that is part of the planetary life is required to vibrate at a certain frequency. So when something evolves, it raises itself in frequency, in vibration. And therefore, you can be part of the new body, but if you don't make the grade, and that's nothing to do with worth, self-worth, make the grade, literally make the grade a degree of frequency, you can't be part of the new body because the spirit needs this level of vibration to express itself. And it isn't though you're cast off and you're bad. It simply says life is incredibly gracious and loving and nothing is lost. It simply means you have not yet taken your master's or your PhD. You're still maybe in kindergarten. You don't get punished for being in kindergarten. You move from classroom to classroom.
There does seem to be, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but within this tradition, there's quite a bit of emphasis put on intentionality and action. So this isn't just like you because you were born of this family, you automatically get an in.
No.
So that would imply why not it's like you haven't done the work. You haven't done the
Well, it also says that on different lifetimes you may be a pauper, and next time you may be a king. Do not associate your current social standing with your spiritual development. That's a sort of a warning signal that goes out from a lot of the teachings.
Right. I think that's wise, sage advice. Because I've one of the things from my own personal journey is there's been times in my life where I've had money and there are times I've been broke, but I've never been poor because that's a spiritual state. I might not have money, but I'm not poor.
Well, exactly.
Yeah, and I think you have to be careful about how you associate yourself when your self-worth and your position and your station, and not have it tied up in the material. It's where you are internally with your own journey.
Right. Just because you were a king before doesn't mean you're going to be, a king next time. And so a lot of people who have past life readings, they get hung up about who they were. Well, I used to be this or that. And I've told you this story before, but when I was living at the Findhorn community in Scotland, we get people coming through who said, well, I was John the Baptist, or I was Moses, and we thought, well, why don't we have a gathering for all the people who believe they were Moses? We'll just have a Moses convention and see who shows up.
Hey, I think that's called Comic-Con. That's no shade, but I think I think that we sometimes identify with an archetypal energy or an archetypal story, or perhaps we're still trying to solve that pattern, and where that's been in terms of distributed computing, maybe you didn't get the whole Moses program, but you got a portion of the unfinished Moses program, and it's your job in this life to reconcile that pattern.
That's a really good point, because it's how I reconcile this with people. that you weren't Moses, but you were part of the Moses energy field or the impulse.
Yeah.
Now, there's more to bring forth, whether it's Moses or Mary or whatever qualitative expression of spirit is seeking to be embodied. But then people identify and personify it.
Mm-hmm. I think about this in the kind of the same way I think about your astrological sign. Just because you were born a Leo doesn't mean you are here to act like a Leo. I think you're here as a Leo to continue to solve the pattern of Leo, like, to resolve it to a higher order, to elevate it.
Yeah, and we're recording this in the sign of Leo.
Mm-hmm.
And the motto for Leo is, I am that I am.
Mm-hmm.
And it's the lion of assertion.
Mm-hmm.
Well, on the personality level, it's the lion of assertion. Hey, look at me, here I am. But on the deeper level, the lion of assertion is asserting the fact of my own essential divinity, and I may do that absolutely silently.
Mm. Yeah, I think that's a perfect encapsulation of, like if you are a type, and then playing against that type is where it gets interesting.
Yeah, because you don't need to use the typology to prove who you are.
Mm-hmm.
I have a typology. I am not that typology.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I am life.
That's where you're not right. You're not getting caught up in the material or the physical. You're recognizing that you're just here to drive this vehicle at this point in time as best as possible, acknowledging that you're not the vehicle.
Yeah,
you're the driver. Yeah.
And here's a very interesting sentence from the same book, Esoteric Psychology. The majority of true esotericists are found outside and not within the bulk of the schools which call themselves esoteric. This is a little sort of, excuse me, don't aggrandize yourselves.
Well, this is one of the reasons why I love this tradition and I love these books is the lines like this are they're rare. I mean, you certainly don't hear one. I mean, I grew up in the Catholic Church. You certainly don't hear anyone in the Catholic Church in the hierarchy saying, the answers are not coming from us. They're saying the answers are very much coming from us, or the true Pope is not part of the church. You're never going to hear them say that. But they're saying right here, the true esotericists are found outside, not within.
This is majority. It doesn't mean that they're not, but I'll just say one other thing is that in one of the books, the Tibetan says, the reason why some of the true esotericists or the higher beings are not inside an esoteric school is because they got work to do. Mm-hmm. They may have been tasked with recreating a new or creating a new economic structure or creating a new educational system, and it would get in the way. They need to get into action. They've already got everything they need on the inner. This lifetime was to put it into action. Now they have that wisdom to draw upon. They get it intuitively. They get it through inspiration. You are inspired when you act, because when you act, you put yourself in play. And when you put yourself in play, you're part of carrying out the purpose of a greater life. And therefore, you are guided in the moment. And so a lot of people think that spiritual path is just studying and being able to recite long passages of very compelling text. Or in fact, there are three aspects to the life of a disciple: meditation, study, and service, which is work in action for the good of the whole.
Yeah. I have found that to be true as I made my way through life. I've had an incredibly adventurous, wild life and got to meet people of all stripes and different things. But one thing I did notice, like being able to, now don't get me wrong, this can be helpful, very helpful, and give you an absolute advantage. But being able to remember large sets of data and recall them quickly is going to give you, it's going to give you a leg up in any endeavor that you do, but it's not wisdom. I mean, I've some of the smartest people, like, in terms of if that's how we're measuring it, it's just, I noticed would have no common sense, or would get, they would require quite a bit of hand holding just to get through regular parts of life. And then would often hit hit an absolute roadblock if it wasn't purely analytical. Like
Yeah.
you throw in a feeling, and then like, oh, the whole thing comes to a stop. Or you throw in something where there has to be a reciprocity of agency.
Yes, yes,
and,
yes,
and
yes.
like, and then all of a sudden the works come to a screeching halt.
Well, it's because it's not, relationship is not just a mental exchange.
Mm-hmm.
It's a wholehearted engagement with each other and with life.
Yeah.
And this next paragraph from, actually, this one is taken from esoteric psychology as well. And once again, those of you who are listening for the first time please know that these were written anywhere from 80 to 60 years ago, these texts, and therefore they use the masculine pronoun a lot. And just for the sake of our own sanity, we're not going to try and change it midstream here. So please bear with us and understand the intent behind it. Man stands midway between heaven and earth, with his feet deep in the mud of material life and his head in heaven. In the majority of cases, his eyes are closed, and he sees not the beauty of the heavenly vision, or they are open, but fixed upon the mud and slime with which his feet are covered. But when his open eyes are lifted for a brief moment and see the world of reality and the spiritual values, then the torn and distracted life of the aspirant begins. Begins, not ends, begins.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. So when you've had that aha moment, or in many of the classic religious texts, you have that vision. You realize that that's just the beginning of the journey. That's not the whole. We tend to think of like, oh, I had this great vision, and now I'm. Oh no, that's just the beginning.
It's interesting because it says man stands midway between heaven and earth.
Mm.
What's midway in the 7 levels? Well, it's level number 4. So humanity is the 4th realm or the 4th kingdom of nature. And 4 is always this fulcrum point.
Mm-hmm.
It's always the bridge between, if you like, the lower frequency and the higher frequency, the lower 3, the upper 3. Therefore, both exist inside of us. So we are the meeting ground of spirit and matter. We've mentioned this before.
Mm-hmm.
We have to work it out. We have to bring the 2 poles together and find a point of synthesis, which is our favorite, the triangle.
Mm-hmm.
If you just live on the baseline, you're going to get pulled apart. You're going to live in that tension of the opposites, which is irreconcilable.
Mm-hmm.
But when you strive towards a higher common point, i.e., you walk from the baseline up to the apex, bringing with you both the good qualities and aspects of both poles, you reach a point of synthesis where the 2 poles actually meet and merge at a higher point. And this, if you like, is the mystery. This is a key to what our role is in evolution. Through our life experience as humans, we can consciously bring heaven and earth together. That's why in the Bible it says our job is to bring heaven down on earth and raise earth to heaven.
Mm. Yeah, we have to bridge that gap.
We're at the midway point.
Yeah.
And then the merging takes place inside of us. That's the alchemical process.
Yeah.
So there's a lot contained in this. Oh, man stands midway between heaven and earth. That isn't just a nice picture.
Mm-hmm.
If you like, it's a spiritual fact.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's a beautiful passage. I mean,
Yeah.
That one has always resonated with me.
Yeah. And still in esoteric psychology 1, the standard of happenings varies in importance according to the angle of vision. And what, from the angle of our Earth's involvement in consciousness, may be a factor of prime importance and of determining value may, from the angle of the universe, be of trifling moment. The affairs of an individual are, to him, of momentous import. To humanity as a whole, they are of small concern. It all depends upon which unit holds the center of the stage in the drama of life, and around which central factor the happenings, trivial or important, pursue their cyclic way.
Mm. This is one of those universal truths that's always hard to digest. This is the vegetables on the smorgasbord.
Yeah.
You want to go to the sweets, but you need to have the vegetables.
Well, but what it's also saying is that when you get wrapped up in yourself, you have self-importance. The self is important, but only in relationship to the greater whole. It's not important by itself, self-importance. Life is important, and life shows up in many manifestations. And then you realize that not only am I the micro self, I'm also the macro self, expressing through the micro self. And then you have this self, with a capital S, self-realization.
Yeah, this is also one of those passages that falls into that right timing kind of understanding, because this can also be used as a way, as a cudgel sometimes.
Yeah.
And it has been historically. One of the I know probably a lot. If you're a younger listener, this is probably throwing up a red flag for you, saying you're taking away my autonomy and my agency, and and it's not saying that in any way.
No, it's saying keep things in proportion.
Yeah.
And we said before, humility, according to the Master DK, is an adjusted sense of right proportion. You don't take yourself too seriously, or you don't aggrandize yourself, but you don't diminish yourself. You accept who you are within the greater scheme of things, and keep things in perspective, I guess, was what it's saying.
Yeah.
And here's like a duh phrase. You go, what? Of course, this is obvious. A mystery only remains a mystery when ignorance and unbelief exist. There is no mystery where there is knowledge and faith.
Yeah, that one does. There's a lot in there, but it is pretty on the nose.
Yeah.
And that's yeah. I mean, that sums itself up.
It says knowledge and faith.
That's an interesting part, though. That's a component that is kind of the twist.
Well, if I were to unpack faith, you've got knowledge, but what is faith? Faith is a deeper knowing that you have trust in.
Yeah, and there's also a hint of in there that there's knowledge, but you have to have faith that what you don't know is not detrimental at this point in time. Like it's not because you can't know everything, at least not in this incarnation. So you have to almost take it on a leap of faith that the knowledge that's available is sufficient to do the work you need to do.
Well, I grew up with the phrase, trust the process.
Yeah.
And it is having faith in life, which doesn't mean that everything is going to be rosy and hunky-dory every moment. It simply means that life exists to express its own innate truth, goodness, and beauty, and we happen to be part of the equation. So there are no outsiders. You're not left out in the cold. You yourself can cut yourself off and remain outside in the cold. But you've got to open the door and come back home.
Yeah.
And then, still from esoteric psychology 2, power selfishly used exhausts its user and evokes a display of power antagonistic to him. He is therefore thereby destroyed because he has destroyed. There's all these warnings about what it means to be powerful.
Yeah.
And what is power? Another podcast we said, power is that universal life force or psychic energy that is needed to carry out the desire of the Creator. Power exists in order to carry out the dream of the dreamer. If power is used to aggrandize self for selfish motivation, then we have, if you like, appropriated a universal resource for personal needs and personal means, and therefore it's dangerous. It's a power tool, and we haven't learned how to use a power tool. or what real power means. Power is not force.
Mm.
Power is not the subjugation of one life by another life.
Mm.
Power is that unit of psychic energy that is needed to carry out, if you like, the will of God or the destiny of the soul.
Mm.
And you have access to that because the whole world, the whole universe is omnipotent, all-powerful. That means power is everywhere. I mean, it's in every atom, for goodness sake.
Mm-hmm.
We're trying to harness it through atomic energy. But when you realize that every atom inside it has atomic energy, and when you release that and have access to that power, you can create new worlds.
Mm-hmm.
At the moment, we're in the process of pulling apart an old world.
Mm.
And we haven't understood that the power is to create the new as well.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Now, here we go back to one of our favorite words, Joey, relinquishing.
Mm-hmm.
Every step forward in evolution, and therefore towards the spiritual goal, is always at a cost, and through this relinquishing of that which has hitherto been held dear.
Yeah.
So it's not, when you say it's at a cost, it's a price. We don't lose, but there's a price to pay. There's a giving up, and what you give up is what is no longer needed.
Mm. Right, but that's the sometimes the difficult part, because that's where the faith comes in, because you have to jettison that stuff, and that the old saying, you have to leap and the net will appear.
Yeah.
It's that leap of faith jump.
Yeah, because it says the relinquishing is the letting go of that which is holding us back.
Mm.
But when we are holding on to it dearly, we believe it's our life raft and it's our identity. And therefore, I'm not going to relinquish this. I've worked all my life to gain this. So we measure our growth, our inner growth, by outer accumulation. And in the end, you have to let go of that, because that's not the true measure of your success in life. The true measure of success is a greater capacity to love, an expanded heart, a more facile mind. So relinquishing, like surrender, people are fearful because I'm not going to let go of this. I've worked all my life for this.
Yeah, and specifically, it's things that you hold dear, and that's it goes back to the sort of the creative concept of killing your darlings. When you have to, the things that you find like charming usually don't translate well in art. So the things that you hold dear don't necessarily translate well to the next order of thinking, or being, for that matter.
And here's an interesting sentence. So we're making our way around the table, just sampling different things. They're all made from the same materials. Remember when when I went to a restaurant, you get the waiter come out and say, "Would you like to see the dessert trolley?"
Yeah.
And I say, "Yes, please." And they wheel out the dessert trolley with these wonderful desserts. And I'd look at them and I thought, wow, what amazing forms of art made out of starch, eggs, wheat, wonderful. They're all made out of the same materials, but they appear differently. And so the person goes, what would you like? Oh, nothing. I just wanted to see them, I said, because I don't do dessert. It's like, but what I'm saying with this is that everything's made out of the same stuff. And the reason I'm saying that is it says the next sentence, human beings are innately kind when their minds are not distorted and their vision impaired by the false teaching of any selfish interest, political propaganda, and racial or religious difficulties. We understand that we're all made out of the same stuff, which is love.
Yeah, this kind of also addresses that concept of, good and evil, or wisdom and ignorance.
Yeah.
If the idea being that if someone is doing something that you consider evil, somewhere in there's some ignorance. Like they're ignorant of the fact that they're hurting themselves. Yeah.
Yes, and we know there are those beings who will make use of forces that are, let's say, inappropriate
Mm.
at this stage in evolution
Mhm.
to further their own ends. Therefore, they ally with something that goes against evolution. Therefore, evil could be seen as an energy out of time and out of place.
Mhm.
It doesn't serve.
Yeah.
So we're going to move along into was a quote here from Esoteric Healing. Release from the threefold form is ever regarded by the spiritual man as the greatest possible good, provided it comes to him under law, as the result of his spiritual destiny and of karmic decision. It must not come as an arbitrary act or as an escape from life and its consequences upon the physical plane, or as self-imposed.
There's a lot there. There's a lot to unpack there.
This is why you can't use it as a cop-out.
Hmm.
Oh, I'm not going to live this life. I'm just going to be ascetic. I'm going to go in the hills. I'm not going to do anything. I'm going to, basically leave the game.
Mm-hmm.
So release from the threefold form is not walking away from it. It's redeeming it.
What in this context, what do they mean by the threefold forms?
It means the physical, emotional, and the
Yeah.
mental. It means your vehicle,
Yeah, right.
your threefold vehicle.
Mm-hmm. And so it's that also means living in a way that maybe cuts off one of those. Like you're not gonna, you don't. I guess that's where the aesthetic part comes in. You can't just cut yourself off from the fact that you're here in this incarnated plane. You know?
Well, I occupy a physical body.
Mm-hmm.
I take care of my physical body, but I don't let the physical needs or desires be the dominant ruling force.
Mm-hmm.
I want the note of my soul to give guidance to the threefold vehicle because it's the driver. The soul's the driver of the threefold vehicle.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
This is not a self-driving car we got here, Joey. I don't care what Elon Musk has come up with.
Yeah, that's a very good point because it's basically saying you can't just be on autopilot.
No.
Yeah.
And so you can't just bail.
Yeah. But how does that work in terms of you can't just be a monk sitting up in a monastery?
Well, it may be right for one lifetime to go through the lessons of detachment to form life. But we are still the outworking of a creative impulse, which is not inert.
Yeah.
It needs to express. So at some point, the fact that we are not attached means that we can be more perfect instruments of creating things that are pure in their form. They're not distorted by attachment. This is why it takes lifetimes, Joey.
Right.
I mean, going to art school is a lifetime's.
Right, yeah.
And the mission is free. You pay with your life.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah. Yeah.
We're talking about life, the raise and the initiation. Can one take life? I think not, it says. Life is, capital I, capital S. Naught in heaven or on earth can touch or affect it. This is a point oft forgotten. Then in italics it says, life cannot be taken in the spiritual sense. Life is impregnable. It cannot be taken or destroyed, but passes on from form to form experience to experience, until the perfect will of God is expressed through life. Now, this gives us a hint of things we've touched on before, of what is the role of matter and the role of form, is to give expression to the innate goodness, truth, and beauty of the spirit. And by that, we have to continue to refine the quality of form and matter so that it reflects and expresses the inside of who we are. But by destroying a form, you do not destroy life. You destroy the form that is currently expressing that life, which doesn't mean you can kill.
Yeah.
And it doesn't mean that you can kill yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Suicide, in the Latin, is self-murder.
Mm-hmm.
So it's saying you can let go of a form, but you can't believe or attempt to take a life.
Right.
Because the karmic consequences, if you like, it's a collective self-harming.
Mm-hmm.
Is war. War is collective self-harming.
Is that what, I mean, this is a little bit of a tangent, but isn't that what got the Atlanteans in a little bit of trouble? Or even before that, the concept of being able to destroy actual life permanently?
Well, yeah, there's a story of why Atlantis reached a point where it was non-sustainable on spiritual levels. The scientists there had realized that just as we realize through the Hindu mythology that the creator and the destroyer are two aspects of the life stream.
Yeah.
And they had, it said, I have no way of fact-checking this, neither of you, that the scientists at that time had separated these two into a life ray and a death ray.
Mm.
And the death ray didn't just kill the form, it disintegrated the form. The form no longer existed, and it reduced it back to its Alstoff, and you can't mess around with that.
Yeah.
So our task is not to wield the death ray or the life ray. Our job is to live our lives.
Yeah.
And as we live our lives prompted by this inner urge to express the innate truth, goodness, and beauty, we will attract to us the situations that are needed to grow, and we utilize the forms that we have developed. And every incarnation is an opportunity to refine the forms. Not just refine the shape of the outer form, but refine the quality of the material that makes up the form. That's the big thing we forget often. It isn't just the forms, but it's the quality and the grade of the matter that informs.
Yeah.
Whew. I know.
That's an interesting, heavy one. Yeah.
And these next two are taken from the book, The Reappearance of the Christ.
Mm-hmm.
We are passing through one of the great natural transitional periods of this time. We are laying the foundation for the emergence of a new species of human being, a more highly evolved unit within the human family, hence much of our problem and much of the present failure to meet the demands of the race and to measure up to human need for development. Actually, this one is taken from Education in the New Age.
I particularly like this passage because there's something tangible I can relate it to, and and that is the sort of these new humans that are that have a almost inherent sense of telepathy, and they run. I've said this before, and I'll say it probably 100 more times. But like the original iPhone, as amazing as it is, can't run any of the apps I need every day. So there is an evolution, and I feel like some of these new humans that are incarnating here, they can run apps that I can't,
because they're coming down with a new circuitry.
Yeah, they really are.
And this is what we say. So when you have a higher evolution of consciousness, that higher level of consciousness will create around it corresponding forms of higher expression. Therefore, it's a higher, more integrated it's integrated circuitry.
Yeah.
Truly integrated circuitry.
Yeah. I love it. I love these new humans we're getting.
Yeah.
But even though there's a little tinge of sadness that you're like, oh, I see where you guys are going, and but at the same time it makes I see all this beautiful evolution of consciousness that
but we are not left behind.
No, not at all. No, I don't
because we're part of the same evolutionary sweep at a different stage of outworking.
Yeah.
And that's where remember the pain of comparison, Joey?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Don't compare.
You can't. No, absolutely. You don't want to. And then also I feel that, with, it's also our job to create a container where these next this next generation of humans can kind of get their sea legs,
Yeah.
traditionally, I think, especially in gosh, I mean, there was a tendency to want to dispatch anyone that was different,
Yes.
and so I think our job is to make sure that we hold a container for those that are different and allow them time to get their feet wet. And
Well, once we understand diversity as an expression of the richness of the one
mhm,
and not a divisive agent of the one,
mhm,
then we stand a chance of living a more holistic life.
yeah,
And so we've got one more sentence here from Education in the New Age. Your vision is oft distorted by the pain and suffering to which the form is subjective, either your own or that of others individually or en masse, so that you do not see clearly the purpose and the urgency of the life within the form.
mm. That can be a touchy one too.
It,
Yeah.
it is, and it's as though when you think of urgency, I think of the pressure to reveal the inner life.
Mhm,
And there are certain times in our development where there is a greater sense of urgency because something is in transition, something new needs to enter. We are at one of these points in our society, the breaking down of an old society and the birthing of a new. Therefore, we need the new impulse to come through, and we have to clear a way for it. And our vision, as it says here, is often distorted by pain and suffering to which the form is subjected.
mm,
And so often we go, oh my God, why is this happening? Why is it such painful? Well, it's painful because things are not in resonant relationship with a deeper purpose.
mm,
Now, we need to hold the pain and the suffering in our hearts and support anyone who is suffering, but not to rescue them.
mm,
We're there to allow life to freely express itself through the highest possible forms that it can find, which
mhm,
is why we're also asked to refine ourselves and to create a new level of matter that vibrates at a higher frequency so that life can find the best possible vehicle of expression, which is what we're saying. This new world that's being born is being born through a new order of matter. The new beings, as we just read in that previous paragraph, there's a new species coming in that represents the new dispensation.
mm,
It doesn't mean we're old and worn out and
mm,
cast-offs. It means we are still part of the ongoing evolution of life, which is the refinement of form and the, if you like, the manifestation of spirit through refined form.
mm,
And then gradually over time, the gap between spirit and matter closes.
mm.
And you have true cosmic integrity, which means what's on the inside is expressed exactly on the outside and vice versa.
Yeah.
I remember Blavatsky wrote, I think in The Secret Doctrine, I can't tell you where exactly, but we know when the destiny of our solar system is complete, when spirit and matter vibrate at the same level, on the same note.
Mm, yeah.
That's that point of synthesis. It's
Yeah.
not compromise.
Mm,
So there's a difference between compromise and synthesis. Compromise is negotiation on the base level, on the baseline of the triangle.
yeah.
Synthesis is the holy communion
Yeah.
between the two poles on the top of the
Yeah.
mountain.
Yeah. I feel like almost compromise is how we make a guitar or piano tuning work, even though it's not exact.
Well, we use the principle of tension.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, why does my guitar sound great? Well, because it's tension.
Mm-hmm.
Now, when it doesn't sound great, the tension isn't correct.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
So everything is creative tension.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of times that just tension disables us.
Yeah, it does. I've been listening to this really great podcast about Genghis Khan, and one of the things that that was striking is that these Mongolian riders, they could by the time they were 3 years old they could ride, And even to this day, people on the step can ride. And but one of the things that was interesting was that if they fall off their horse, no one goes and runs to take care of them. And it's for a Westerner, it's really striking to observe. And then you realize, because once they're out riding, if they fall off their horse and they're miles and miles away from home, they have to know how to get up and find their way. And so one of the hardest things you can do is to stand by while someone you love is in pain, and not rush to them and try to comfort them, and that is a hard thing, especially now when people are more sensitive in a good way. I don't mean sensitive in a bad way. We are collectively, we are becoming more sensitive and more self-aware and more mindful. And then at the same time, you achieve this level of mindfulness and sensitivity, and then you have to then you're required to then watch someone you love be in pain and have to go through this and not rush to them.
You can hold them in love and help relieve the pain, but the real healing balm is when they break the pattern that caused the pain in the first place.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Otherwise, it's rescuing.
Right.
There's a fine line between rescuing and holding somebody in a compassionate embrace.
Yeah. I mean, you find that in families dealing with someone that is an addict or going through addiction is you can, until that person decides that they want to do something different, no amount of anything is gonna help them. You can. It's a tough way. It's a tough thing to navigate, but it's kind of saying that here in that same way, you have to process your own trauma. You have to process your own pain and suffering. Find a way for a place for that to live constructively in your own journey.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we've eaten quite a bit from this from this buffet, and my sense is that
I think that's probably good.
Good spot for maybe today. We take one more.
Okay.
This goes back to relinquishing. Why don't we end with relinquishing again?
Yeah, that's fantastic.
By holding, man loses. By relinquishing, he gains. By seeking to grasp that which he has, it must and will inevitably disappear.
Yeah.
This is the classic counterintuitive guidelines to life.
Mm-hmm.
If you want to have something, let go.
Yep. Yeah.
Let go of your desire.
This is some classic wisdom of the experience of being human.
It is.
And
I gotta have that. I gotta have that. Well, in the end, it has you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And that's the thing. I gotta have that, which means I'm going to give over my sovereignty to that thing that I have to have. And then when you let go of it and you realize it represents, if you like, a vision or an archetype of something inside of you that already exists in you. The kingdom of heaven is within. It's already there. Because we can't see it within our eyes, we see it reflected on the outside. And when we see a reflection of it, we go, oh, right, I want that, whether it be a person or a car or a guitar.
And there are some nice guitars.
There are some nice guitars out, which I still actually have a desire for.
Yeah.
I still have to let go of my need for a Gibson Les Paul.
Yeah.
Anyway, but what it's saying, by holding, we lose. And remember, we did this example as if you have an open hand, it allows you to receive and give. But with a clenched fist, if you're holding on to something, it freezes you and you can no longer receive or give anything else. So you have to sort of let go. By relinquishing, he gains. By seeking to grasp that which he has, it must and will inevitably disappear. Those are the underpinnings of the Buddhist teaching on attachment.
Yeah, I mean, that current definitely is coming through.
And I think we did it in a recent podcast. We were hinting at that which is true never disappears. That which is true exists, and is always seeking to be expressed. What you may let go of is your current form of interpretation of what it should look like. But when you let go of the forms, the desire for, if you like, the Holy Trinity, and that we use all the time, of truth, goodness, and beauty, that is always seeking expression through each one of us. And each one of us has our own unique coloring and flavoring and absolutely magnificent expression of that basic Trinity. Each one of us expresses that Trinity in our purest state, and each one of us gives to it our own signature, our own stamp, our own coloring. So in the end, until everybody has reached a point where they are expressing their deep inner nature, the true nature of humanity has not been fully expressed. You need all the colors in the paint box. And we're learning the painful lessons of how to get stuck by holding on to warfare, holding on to addiction, or holding on to power, holding on to basically what life is saying: let go, let God. Let go, let love.
Thank you.
Any final thoughts, Joey?
Thank you, Michael. That's beautiful. I just, when you were saying that, I just couldn't help but think of, like, we're so enraptured by the theater of this life, and we forget sometimes that we bought a ticket to the movies.
We also help produce the movie.
Yeah. So
we're watching ourselves.
Yeah, we're watching ourselves and forgetting that when you step outside of the movie, it's going to be a bright, sunshiny day.
Oh, thank you for this musical reference.
Yeah.
It is a bright, sunshiny day on the inside.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
May that bright, sunshiny day be revealed on earth.
That's right.
Through all that we think, say, and do together. Thanks, Joey.
All right. Thank you, Michael.